All right. Greetings, everyone. Today is Tuesday, May 29th, 2018, and this is the weekly meeting of Kubernetes Sig Documentation. I'm Zach Corlison. I am back after 2 weeks of vacation. Very glad to see you all. Very glad to see the shining documentation faces. So let's start with new contributors. Do we have anyone who is new, who's attending this meeting for the first time?
Yeah, there's Masaya.
Masaya?
Yes. Hi.
Welcome.
Yeah, hi. I'm Masaya. I'm writing serial publication and books for Kubernetes. And I developed GK-like container platform for on-premise. And I organize Cloud Native Meetup Tokyo. And after I attend the Contributor Summit at KubeCon, and first I send 10 PRs to website last week. Yeah, I would like to review, and I see Zach, and I would like to contribute Kubernetes. So today I attend here.
Awesome. Well, welcome.
Thank you.
Glad to have you here. Other new folks?
New folks, but I'm not good at speaking English, so I will give a chat-based.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
Thank you, Messiah. It's good to have you here. Good to meet you.
Thank you.
Zach, do you know Neha? She's our new intern. She's sitting behind Andrew in the video there.
No, hello.
Hi.
Yeah, I think we introduced her when you were out.
Yeah, I am an intern here, and I have some background in technical writing, and I'm studying UX design and research. So I'm trying to improve the application developer user journey for Kubernetes.
Excellent. I'm so glad that you're here. Welcome. It's Nehaj?
Neha.
Neha. Okay. Thank you. Well, welcome.
Thank you.
I think June was going to say something. Although we can't.
You are muted.
Can you hear me now? No.
Yep. We can hear you now.
No, we could, but now we can't anymore.
How about now?
Perfect.
Okay, sorry about that. I never introduced myself. I only just got a little bit familiar at Writing Day with, I worked closely with Steve Perry at Writing Day at the Portland conference, and I'd like to contribute, but I'm really a newbie. So I've been a technical writer for a long time, but I want to become familiar with open source and contributing, but I have things to learn still. So yeah, that's about it.
Thank you for joining us, June. You're in the right place.
Great, thanks.
Yeah, one of the things that you can do to help contribute is to help edit documents, because a lot of the content is written by engineers and stuff. So you can help them with structure and language, things like that. Because then that should help you also learn the concepts as well.
Right. Okay. Cool. So I have a couple of PRs right now, but I'm still just kind of trying to get used to get comfortable with GitHub and things like that. So a little slow getting started here. But yeah, I agree. Yeah.
That's all right. Everyone started that way. Even me, we just started with small typo PRs and just kind of work your way from there.
Okay. Great.
Excellent. All right, let's move on to updates and reminders. I'm back. Glad to see you all. Rotations for the PR Wrangler queue. This week is Jennifer Rondeau. Are you wrangling PRs this week?
I don't think she's on at the moment. I do
not see her. Let us take that as a soft no. If Jennifer is ironclad about doing it this week, that's great, she can. Otherwise, I am happy to do it. It's been a while since I took a...
I think she's indicated that she has a pretty heavy workload right now, if I was listening last week.
Okay.
So she can take a look at some things, but seemed not ready to take responsibility for like the full wrangling stuff.
Yeah.
Okay.
Probably safe.
She would not be insulted if you wanted to step in, Zach.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Then I will step in and do that this week. For folks, is there anybody who would like to step up and be Wrangler for next week? Well, if you think about it, and Zach is moving his neck.
I would love to, but I'm one PR away from actually being useful to this team.
Soon. As you think about it, if you are moved to be the Wrangler for next week, feel free to update the agenda here or drop a line into the Slack channel, and we will get you slated in and queued up. All right, just another reminder that Misty is the release meister for 1.11. We changed hands before I went out on vacation. Misty, I would love to catch up with you about how that has gone. Zach, too, I would like to check in with you and see how you are following along with the release meister process. We can, is Misty in one sentence or less, how is 1.11 going?
Oh, I have it further down on the agenda, but I can do it now.
Oh, nice.
It's going as could be expected, I think, from what I hear. So last week was the deadline. Friday was the deadline for placeholder PRs to be in, and some are there. So we still have 7 line items on the spreadsheet whose doc state is unknown. The SIG release meeting is directly after this one, so I will be letting those people know in that meeting what the state is as well. I did go through last Thursday and ping all of the GitHub issues that are related to features for 1.11 and remind people about that deadline. And from that pinging came some updates that some features would not make it into 1.11, which nobody had told anybody that, so that was useful. I've also been working with Ihor and Stephen Augustus on the feature tracking spreadsheet itself. I gave them some recommendations. I opened a GitHub issue in the SIG release, or I think SIG planning repo, I don't remember, whatever the repo is that they use, with some feature requests. And we also added a feature stats sheet onto that spreadsheet. So that's how I know that there are 7 issues whose doc state is unknown. So some sort of general planning improvements there, I think, just because they're fresh eyes, so maybe I had some new ideas. We were able to merge quite a few PRs. I did a rebase last week of the 1.11 branch, and things are going pretty well. I did all of your checklist items that you gave me before you left, and I feel like things are pretty solid. I'm happy to get feedback. I would love to get feedback since I'm new on this.
Awesome. Was that checklist helpful?
It was helpful. I left you a couple comments on it if you want it to be eventually end up somewhere more permanent.
Okay. Awesome. Thank you for that. Okay. Yeah, thank you for the 1.11 update, Misty. Let's see, Steve, do you want to talk about fixing broken links?
Sure. I've been noticing that we get a lot of PRs where someone fixes a few broken links, and you know, we appreciate those, but I think it's kind of the slow going way to get our broken links fixed. And I don't have time to do this, but I'm wondering if anybody does have time to take this as a project to just, you know, run a link checking tool across the entire doc set and just, you know, take the time to try to fix all the broken links. I think it would save us a lot of time of processing. You know, each time we have to process one of these PRs, we have to kind of understand what's been done and make sure it's been done correctly. And sometimes a person will fix a link at its source, but that bad link is probably elsewhere. So probably we want to also update the redirects file, and that we don't always see that has been done. So we get into a conversation, and I just feel like it's kind of, you know, when we try to go through PRs, we can get buried in this stream of PRs that are just for this purpose.
I can look at it, Steve. I can look at sort of a more automated way to do it. I've done this several times before.
Okay. Yeah.
And I don't know if it's worth us maybe automating some job that runs on Travis periodically. Probably not per PR, but maybe like on a weekly basis or a monthly basis, or if it's just worth one of us signing up to run the W3C tool across the website every month and generate a report. One place that we probably won't be able to fix broken links is anchors within pages. That's just too hard, especially because you change heading names and then all those anchors break. And I just don't think it's worth it, because if the person ends up on the right page, they can probably do fine to get there.
Yeah.
But I can look into it for this week and report back next week what might be a reasonable solution, at least for the short term.
Yeah, okay. And I think, you know, the idea of weekly or monthly is good. But right now we have a bunch of them that are broken because of the Hugo migration. You know, as best we tried to, you know, to always redirect when we shuffled things around, and we still are shuffling. I think a bunch of the ones we're seeing now are from the migration.
We do agree. Zach, you were doing the pointing at yourself dance. Do you want to also chime in with helping with
everything? I was like, you know, this would be a perfect thing to pop into like a CI thing. So, way to go, Misty.
Well, if you want to do it and you want to earn your stripes, then you can feel free to. I know you said that you want to get one more PR in. I assume that's so that you can get to the next level of authority in a repo.
Level up.
Sure. Maybe we can work together on it. We can talk on Slack about it.
I like that.
Collaboration.
Steve, while we're talking to you, Steve, and Jennifer's on the line now, is there any update on the reference docs? Because we keep getting new issues about the reference docs. And I think we have a few PRs open right now, and I think some of those PRs might be conflicting with each other or redoing each other's work.
I've been trying to look at those PRs and issues as I get a chance, but I haven't made any forward progress. There's one that is in the Kubernetes incubator reference docs repository, and I still just don't understand what Qimeng is trying to do there. It introduces 20,000 files into that repository, and it touches, and it seems to be changing reference docs that aren't even generated from code that is in that repository. And so I'm just baffled by it. So to answer your question, no, I haven't made any progress, but I have been looking.
I can follow up a little bit there. Steve, did you look at Qimeng's last comment in that PR? He has a long comment that he submitted over the weekend, and I just took a quick look at it. TLDR for anybody else on the call who's interested, it's not actually adding all those files. He's getting rid of vendoring. The trouble is the diff is so big you can't tell that it's removing files instead of adding them. There's a whole lot more information in the PR. Maybe you and I can talk about it separately later this week.
Sure,
for everybody on the call, though, this is a PR that's about the tooling for generating all of the reference docs. And I tried to come up with a compromise solution for the Kube docs anyway, for the duration of 1.11, and I think all I did was make communication worse. That is to say, the SIG cluster lifecycle seemed to understand what I was saying. I'm not sure that Chimeng did. He was concerned, you still can't diff. It's a muddle. I will see whether I can do something to help without making a meta muddle there. But I have not had a chance to look at any of this stuff today, and I probably won't until tomorrow.
Well, I did see that he wrote that comment. I haven't had time to read it yet.
I just thought I'd mention it quickly, that there's a lot more information in there, and I think I understand what he's getting at. I share your concerns, though.
And something I truly don't understand is that repository is only for two things. It's for the Kubernetes API reference docs, and it's for the kubectl command reference docs. It's not for other things like the single ref pages we have for Kube API server, controller manager, scheduler, and yet those things seem to be in the discussion in that PR. That's what strikes me as just really weird.
Yep. I think I understand it, but but I'm not sure. So I need to go read more carefully, and maybe we can find some time to meet between now and next week's meeting and bring a report back.
Yeah, okay.
And maybe
Jennifer, sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead. I've actually wound up just with my sometimes odd daily schedule, finding time where Chimeng and I are online at the same time, and we wind up chatting in Slack. I'll see if I can find some time like that this week too. That might help. The time difference doesn't help, right? We're never all in a meeting together where we can talk about this stuff and sort of get through what are clearly some communication blocks.
Well, one of the things I'd like to see is that if somebody's going to propose a pull request of this size, that before they do it, they explain it in a Sig Docs meeting, and they don't have to be there in person. They could put it on the agenda in writing.
Right. Anything that touches docs ought to be subjected to, that's at a project level, ought to be subjected to something like what the code repositories have got.
Or at least to see it attached to an issue where the relevant the relevant technical explanation is disclosed rather than trying to retroactively explain a PR.
This all started with a PR that Chimeng issued right after the end of the 1.10 release to fix formatting for some of the reference docs, right? The ones that show up in the website, that not the kubectl or the API reference docs, but all of the others. And that looked like a great idea, and we merged it. And the tooling to make everything look pretty like that is still sitting only on Chimeng's desktop.
Okay.
That's why there is some urgency around this PR, because we actually have work based on what's in it on the website. This means, among other things, that we cannot diff those generated docs anymore.
I would love to help with this. If you will mention me into the PR, I would be happy to follow up.
Great. I mean, I try to mention this. This is complicated by the fact that, and this might be useful for everybody to know too, the KubeADM docs, and I'm partly responsible for this. I still think it was a good idea, but they're not like any of the other docs, reference docs, because they are partly manually curated, written by hand in Markdown. And then those Markdown files include generated snippets. So they include bits and pieces of what one might otherwise call the KubeADM reference docs. This was part of a proposal that actually went through several iterations in 2017 and was discussed by this group and the SIG cluster lifecycle, mostly Fabrizio Bandini. But it was really the result of collaboration between the two SIGs. Seemed like a great idea. It has not been an issue until now, when Sig Cluster Lifecycle is doing a lot of work on KubeADM, and they are updating both the code and the manually curated docs. And so they, I think quite properly, are submitting the generated docs as part of their pull request for reference so that you can see what's everything that's changed. Only you can't in the generated bits. And so now we are in this like betwixt and between state. I suggested that they not worry about it. Just go ahead and generate without the pretty tables in the old, ugly inline formatting way. But that still doesn't let us diff any changes. And it's certainly true that it can be confusing looking at the generated files in a pull request because you start thinking you change the generated file. I thought that I was taking care of all of this, but of course the PRs are wide open, so this was not clearly communicated. And so there's a couple of different models here. I hope I'm explaining them clearly. You know, one is whether generated docs should ever show up in a PR, you know, sort of during the release cycle. I thought.
Interesting. Okay.
And the other is this tooling issue, which exists for other generated docs too, but has surfaced during the release cycle because of the Kubedium docs.
I have reflexive thoughts about generated docs appearing in release PRs, but I mean, that's just sort of like flatworm response. I would like to, yeah, let's think about that more deeply, because I can see a couple of ways in which that could go very wrong very quickly. Yes. So let's follow up on that next week. Let's talk this week, Jennifer, and
I'll add you to the PR.
Thank you. We're just going to make a note. Sorry, just checking the date really quick. June 5th. Including generated docs and release PRs. Okay, Jennifer, in the chat. Okay, let's move on. Misty, was there anything else that you wanted to say about 1.11? Sorry, I jumped the gun a little earlier.
Nope, there's not.
Okay, great.
If questions come up, you can ping me. The next one is probably for you, Zach. I think that the Kubernetes organization is doing something where they're adding security contacts for each repo. And somebody raised a PR to, or at least claimed an issue or raised an issue to do it for docs, but they needed to know who those contacts should be. And I suspect it probably would be somebody at Ella.
Okay. See, this is the link to the PR here, this 8724.
Yeah.
Okay. I suspect that will be for both Andrew and myself to follow up on. So, Andrew, I will ping you and follow up on this.
I assume that this is like if something weird happened to the repo or something like that.
Okay. Let's go on to GCE content in open source docs.
Yeah, this is probably going to be a quick one. I saw a PR where somebody had made some changes around an area in a file that included some GCE commands. They didn't add GCE commands, but I just saw it when I was reviewing the PR. And my gut feel is that we shouldn't have GCE commands in our open source docs because there are probably Kubernetes CLI commands to do the same things. So I commented in that PR, and I'm working with that person, but I wonder if we have or would like to have some guidance about that in the style guide, about like vendor specific stuff in general, maybe not GCE.
So yes, I agree we shouldn't be doing that. A lot of that stuff is, I don't know if what you were looking at is old or new, but there's a lot of that kind of thing that's just kicking around because it's old stuff. So there were places where we have to mention cloud providers because we need to say, here's a way you hook Kubernetes into or you hook a cloud provider into Kubernetes. But I think that anytime we're going to show a cloud-specific command, we ought to point to the docs for that cloud.
And maybe if we do have to have a command for some reason, maybe we should try to include a command like more than one, so that we don't seem to be favoring one specific cloud provider. Like if we had to say how to do it on GCE, maybe we should say how to do it also on something else. I don't know. That's just one idea. If there was a time that we absolutely had to do it.
Yeah, I think so. I think that you're right about the general idea. We don't want this to be, we don't want to look like we're favoring any particular cloud.
So rather than point to that kind of specific level guidance, I would say for the style guide, in terms of how we would express that in the style guide, I think that's a good implementation of a larger strategy. And for that larger strategy, I would say make docs as platform agnostic as possible. Link to provider specific information. Link to provider specific information and be as platform agnostic as possible.
I could imagine a case like a task, like a walkthrough, in which we choose a cloud provider to use for that particular task if it made sense. But in that case, I think it would be great for us to, like, in the intro to that, say something like, for the purposes of this task, we're using Google Cloud. You could also do this task on a different cloud provider, something like that.
So I'd like to continue working with Chris Hodge and the cloud provider working group. I don't know if they've fully upgraded to a SIG yet, because I think they have some strong ideas, or at least some well-formed ideas about how specific cloud providers can maintain their own documentation throughout the site. And I would like to make sure that partnership, whatever we do with like cloud-specific tutorials, which I think can be a great idea, but to make sure that the ownership for the freshness of that content goes to the working group, to the cloud provider working group, rather than resting solely on Sig Docs.
Cool.
Okay. But yes, thank you. Good idea. And thank you for highlighting this, Misty. It's a lingering issue. It's good to put a spotlight on it. Let's see, moving on. So Andrew, do you want to talk about the post-Hugo bug bash?
Yeah, so I just want to update you. So a couple Fridays ago, we did like sort of a doc sprint style like bug bash, and we addressed about half the issues and we were able to close and merge like the PRs that were already open. So, and then we opened a bunch of new PRs to address, some of the issues. So I think we did a pretty good job. We might need to do another one, but also we need to kind of suss out which things need to be assigned to Bjorn, because I think a few of them like we can't address ourselves. So we just need a process for identifying them and assigning them to Bjorn.
Okay. I would say, Andrew, you and I agree that we probably need another one. So I would say, Andrew, let's you and I get together this week and specifically figure out how we want to flag issues for Bjorn, and how to mark those clearly and how to pass that information to him, whether we want to pass that, like send him update by update, or like do a weekly collection, or what we think is going to be the most optimal way to present information to him. And
I think we also need guidelines so that we can tell people, and they can know, like, oh, this is probably something that we can't do.
Yeah, so exactly. Andrew, do you have a couple examples off the top of your head as to things that we would need Bjorn to do?
I can't think of specific examples off the top of my head, but there are things that like he needs to change. I think it would be things that he would need to add or change, like the shortcodes for, or there's a couple things. I don't know, I'd have to look in the spreadsheet,
Yeah.
but like last week we identified a few of them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was definitely things where we were like, oh, well, we're not sure how to fix this, and this one seems like it really needs some in-depth Hugo and some understanding of how Bjorn did some things. So those are the ones I remember seeing,
Yeah.
Andrew. I was like, oh, that one looks tough.
Well, there's one example where we discovered that if you have a big directory, and in that directory there are individual topics and also subdirectories.
Yeah, that was it.
That you can't mix those by using weights. You have to have all your individual topics first, followed by all your subdirectories. And you can use weights to order the list of individual topics. You can use weights to order the list of subdirectories, but you can't mix them together. But I don't think that's it's not like that's a bug. That's just the way Hugo is designed right now. So are you proposing that we're going to go to Bjorn and say, we need extra features in Hugo so we can do this thing we want?
Or, I mean, is there a workaround? Is there a way that Hugo can deal with that? Like, I don't think we know because we don't have the Hugo expertise, but he could answer that question
Right.
pretty quickly.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I think Steve's right on the working as intended, but yeah. Okay, let's follow up this week on at least specifically how to flag and how to communicate to others how to flag, so that we can get that flow of information moving to BEP, and at least start getting his eyes on things that we think are for his attention. So how are folks feeling about Hugo in general? It's, we dropped it and I sort of smoke bombed out for a couple of weeks. So how are folks feeling about it with a couple of weeks of experience now? Like generally, like show of thumbs, up, middle, down, where are folks?
Yeah. So on this topic, Zach, it was actually one of my bullet items. So I'll kind of move my bullet item up. But
Nice.
I think having Bjorn do just a little bit of a code walkthrough, code review of sort of the pieces of Hugo that he used. It's got this hierarchy of templates, and understanding how he did the hierarchy of templates, how he designed his base HTML or whatever that the other things inherit from. Getting more insights there, I think, would be helpful. I learned a lot by doing a lot of reviews of folks who are making changes, particularly, like Steve, who was putting in a lot of the weighting. So I learned a lot by doing that, and then just learning as much Hugo as I could. But it might help a lot of these folks to kind of jumpstart being able to say, oh, let's go through the structure, and we'd all kind of understand, sort of how Bjorn was thinking when he structured everything. I think that would be a useful session sometime.
I agree. And while reviewing PRs, I have noticed that there are syntax things that are new that I have questions about. And I think we don't have like a cheat sheet. There's a little bit in the docs that I guess maybe Bjorn added, but like I don't really understand the short code. And like I see places where people's PRs change things that they didn't need to change, like where they're using the wrong tag to end captures and things like that. And it's been kind of a lot of detective work to figure out in those cases what the correct way is. Like I've got it now for a lot of them because of reviews, but like the code one, I don't necessarily understand that well. And like we've found some bugs with lists and indentation and things like that. And Bjorn hasn't really weighed in even when we've pinged him on PRs. So I think maybe it would be good for him to have, if not like a office hours, then at least some kind of a presentation where we can ask some questions.
Agreed. It would be nice to have more formal availability from him, like that, and to have that scheduled.
Yeah.
So, okay. Thank you.
Can I slip one thing in?
Yeah.
Related to that. So I noticed that, so we used to, in the Netlify build process, specifically add like a no index, like so that the older versions of the site, like 1.9 don't get indexed in the Google search. But I noticed that now with Hugo, we actually don't do those build commands in Netlify. It's all controlled through the .toml file. But I didn't see anything in that that added the no index thing. So I just want to, I didn't have time to, but we need to check with him if that's been re-implemented somehow, or if we actually, or we need to re-implement it, because I don't want all the various versions kind of cluttering the Google search results.
Andrew, I'm going to move that comment down under under the larger bullet point for feedback from Beth, because I agree. No indexing previous versions is really important for user happiness. So let's definitely figure out how to implement that, whether it's implemented, and make sure we understand those particular mechanics. Let's see. Brad, do you want to talk about feedback on blogs?
Yeah, this one's quick and easy. I was doing bug wrangling last week with Steve Perry, and obviously the ones I try and grab are ones where somebody's trying to update through a PR of the blogs, because it's a real easy response. You just say, I'm really sorry, but you can't do that through this review process. We're not the right reviewers. Could you please go to the blog and ideally do it there, which I thought there was a way to provide feedback. Finally, I got burned. Somebody called me on it and said, there's no way to provide feedback on that blog. There's no place to put comments. And so I did respond, okay, well, you should go to the authors. But I found that really interesting. Was that the best answer, is try and go back to the authors, or go back to the owners rather? Like there was a list of owners for the blogs who do the owner review. But typically when you do see a lot of blog articles out there, there is an easier way to provide feedback. So if somebody really was like, oh, I want to provide feedback on this, not just get my easy typo PR, I didn't know what to tell them.
Sure. So the mechanics for blog posts in particular, there's, if you look in the blog directory, there is a blog specific owners file.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
And right now, the best way to provide feedback on our particular blog post is for somebody to leave a comment on that particular post. And if they can.
But you mean, is there a way to leave a comment on the blog? You mean on the blog, or?
Sure. Well, they have to through GitHub, yes. But there's no right now. There's no like from the blog itself, from the website. Oh. There's no way to get to GitHub from the blog. So it's we basically right now we're telling people to cut your own hatch down into the space underneath the stage, and figure out for yourself how this works. Get in there and make a comment. And it would be nice to provide a clearer pathway for folks to leave blog feedback.
Yeah, maybe some type of breadcrumb at the bottom of every blog article.
Yeah.
I don't know what it would say, because that does sound kind of hard. I mean, most people will just type in a little thing and hit post, and we'll probably lose a lot because it's involving it. Well, if we can find a way for them to find a place to easily comment in GitHub, I guess that's not too bad. I don't know. Anyways,
but that's if you wanted to open an issue about that. Sarah Conway, Caitlin Barnard, any of the entries from the owners file for the blog would be great people to mention in the OP of an issue, saying, hey, it would be really awesome if we could provide like a breadcrumb trail.
Sure. No, I can do that.
To make it easy, to make it easier for users to comment on blog posts.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Before we brought these into our repository, was there some mechanism on the blog article itself where people could click to give feedback?
No. We had the standard write nav form that we did right now, which is Go through Twitter, go through, I'm sorry, Brad, you were going to say something?
Oh, I was just going to say, you're absolutely right. I don't think there was a way previously. The only difference is now that you've moved him in, there's this implicit thought that, oh, well, I just submit a PR to fix this just like anything else in the repo. That was all I was going to say.
Right. Yes, but it's not necessarily immediately apparent from the website layer that we've changed the authoring layer. So providing a more explicit, like just link to the particular blog file might be some nice functionality to implement.
Sure.
But that's the marketing team's discretion whether or not they want to pursue the development there.
Yeah, I was just finding a way to get it off our plate, the old handoff, you know.
Right. Okay. Anything? That's the end of what we have on the agenda right now. Is anything else that folks would like to raise in the time that we have left? Right.
One small thing. I'm planning to go to Write the Docs in Cincinnati in, I think it's October, and I may be running a doc sprint then for Kubernetes. So if anyone else is planning to attend and would like to help out, let me know.
I'm attending. I think it's in August,
Yes.
Andrew.
Oh, August?
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
And
Okay.
I think I told you already, Andrew, I'll be there.
Okay, cool.
Hooray! Awesome. The only thing I knew that Cincinnati was a thing. I have not made any plans, but now that I know the cool people will be there.
It'll be good to see you, Zach.
Oh, likewise, Rihanna. All right. Anything else for the meeting today? All right. That's a SIG meeting. Thanks, everybody. It's really good to see you again.
Welcome back.
Next week.
Welcome back.
All right. Bye.